WIKE,
this is
WIKE, this is not the Nigeria we want to. We are not fighting anybody. See what your boys are doing. We are not fighting anybody. WIKE, it is our right to protest. WIKE, it is our right to protest. It is our right to protest. It is our right. See what WIKE they do. Nobody say we fight. We did not fight. We just stood. You understand? Singing our song. We get tell them made a pop tear gas. See my face, man. Crazy. Crazy. On top of our own rights. You understand? You cannot beat us and you still teach us how to cry. We are suffering. We are suffering. And fucking hell, man. WIKE.
This is good day, my SM viewers. This is Satellite Media. Let us analyze the matters arising sequel to the protest, nationwide protest, hashtag and bad governance in Nigeria. We understand that Mr. President, Senator Tinubu already addressed the nation, and he gave so many areas where the government have tried to intervene to cushion the effect of the hardship of his policies. But let us start from number 5 of that address, which personally I strongly disagree with Mr. President in some areas. He says, as president of this country, I must ensure public order in line with my constitutional oath to protect the lives and property of every citizen. Our government will not stand idly and allow a few with a clear political agenda to tear this nation apart. I think the area where I say I disagree with Mr. President has to do with the area where he's saying people with political agenda to tear this nation apart, because I'm aware that what is driving this protest is purely hunger, hopelessness, insecurity. And if you look at the message across board on all the states where the protest took place, it has to do with telling the president to address the issue of hunger, the issue of hopelessness, and telling the president to give attention, or rather look at those policies that are hitting hard on the people and see whether he can review them. But Mr. President likening it to some person with political agenda, I think I strongly disagree with him. I agree with Mr. President that he has a mandate to protect lives and property. But again, one begins to ask, at what point did the police get the power to start disobeying a court order? We understand that the court in Abuja, prior to the protests, restricted protesters to Moshood Abiola National Stadium. And surprisingly, we saw VeryDArkMan coming out to accuse someone like the SCT Minister, WIKE, of sending police to disperse them. And according to him, you can clearly hear why he was shouting that they are merely exercising their rights of peaceful protest. But again, let us quickly look at if the protesters were obeying a court order that say restrict yourself to Moshood Abiola National Stadium, why would the police go and start dispersing them? We understand that in some part of the country they were violent, but it's not recorded that in Abuja that they were violent in that venue that would have warranted the police using such force to disperse people who were exercising their legitimate rights, and not just exercising their legitimate right, but obeying a valid court order. But we shall be looking at it from the angle that Mr. President at this point should know, one, that the issue of food shortage is somehow tied to insecurity. As a matter of urgency, that the president needs to fight against insecurity a priority attention. Because however I look at it, if we are not producing, we are importing, definitely there's already shortage of food in the country. Then let us equally look at the issue of the issue that has to do with palliative. Because Mr. President have rolled out the different areas, though no one is not new. When he was talking about the issue of 1 billion to some companies, talking about issue of giving money to states. But I'm of the view that state governors are not responsible enough to be allowed to distribute palliative meant for the vulnerable when it comes to pushing the effect of hardship of government policies on the people. Because we have seen situations where it would relieve palliative, DSS will discover some palliative in the hands of government officials at the state level. This recent one, I think about 2,000 bags of rice were discovered in the hands of some government officials from one of the states in the north. And if you are bringing up palliative, you end up in the hands of some privileged individuals. Then it means the whole essence of giving that palliative have been defeated. Because we understand that there are people who are vulnerable. Because we are looking at the vulnerability that the government is targeting. It has to do with people who perhaps have no means of livelihood, who, when their children are sick, they don't have the means to take them to the hospital. We are talking about the aged. We are talking about people who are sick. So if someone will sit comfortably in his office because his advantage is privilege to receive all this palliative on behalf of the vulnerable, now take due advantage of it, I think the government should have a second thought anytime there is need for palliative. Because however I look at it, there is hunger in the land. You cannot take that away. And the government have acknowledged that. But again, let me quickly dive into the accusation of police by Amnesty International. We've been saying this often and often. This is not the first time that Nigerian government is always quick to tag Amnesty International a partisan organization anytime they accuse Nigerian security agencies of high-handedness in handling issues of this nature. Recall that Amnesty International have come out clearly to accuse Nigerian police of perhaps killing about 13 persons during these protests. The police in turn have come out to say, yes, we are acknowledged that about 13 persons have died, that they never killed anyone, and that they attributed the death to some, according to them, that some happened during suicide bombing, and that some persons died when vehicle ran into protesters. But let us quickly bring the angle of NSC. I'm talking about organized labor, when they threaten that if the police do not stop the unnecessary waste of life, they will step in, perhaps as in solidarity with the protesters. But I think this is where leadership comes in. Because Mr. President needs to understand, just like he has said, that he has the mandate to protect lives and property, that if there's accusation against security agencies, the police for that matter, that has the mandate to manage internal security in a time like this, that it behoves on him to ensure that the proper thing is done. And what is that proper thing? The proper thing is that let them be a proper investigation to unravel what actually transpired. Because for me, the police coming out quickly to debunk the pressure or the statement that came from Amnesty International, and perhaps it ends there, it looks as if police is already a judge in their own case. Because here they are accused, the onus lies on Mr. President to step in and order an independent inquiry to actually investigate and unravel what actually transpired. Just in the past, when some police personnel, of course from IG Special Squad, went to Taraba State to arrest Waduma, and we understand that the policemen were killed by military personnel under the supervision of a captain. Then we understand that the then government ordered the panel of inquiry, and the inquiry indicted the soldier, sorry, 9 soldiers, about 9 soldiers and a captain. Though up to now we don't know what has become of the situation, but we understood that then there were a panel of inquiry. In the same vein, we encourage Mr. President to use his good office to unravel who did what. Because it's not just enough for police to sit at the comfort of their offices and become a judge in their own case. Because however I look at it, they have been accused by organized labor, they have been accused by Amnesty International. I think the right thing to do under this circumstance is ensure that we do a proper investigation to unravel who did what. And when we do this, one thing is certain, and that thing that is certain is it will act as a deterrent to others. Because if you find a policeman wanting for perhaps abusing the firearm that is given to him, and he's punished, that will deter other policemen in taking laws into their hands anytime they are on duty to manage such situation. Let us now look at areas of intervention by federal government, which they have promised before now. The government has said that about 600,000 or so nano business owners are already benefiting from the scheme to cushion the effect of subsidy removal on gasoline and the policy of floating of efforts at the official window. But the issue is we need to get feedback from Nigerians. We need to get feedback from the beneficiaries as to whether the government claim is right. Because we have seen in the past where government want to read the vulnerable. Let me use a case in hand. We are talking about Betedu, who at the time needed to pay money into coffers of the vulnerable, I think in Lagos and Akwa Ibom State, and the money ended up in private individual accounts. We understand that at the time, the revelation came to the public glare and the minister was suspended. So we hope we are not likely seeing similar things as government is making effort to cushion the effect of their policies on the vulnerable. Because personally, we needed to get feedback from the beneficiaries to do an appraisal and be sure that the target audience or Nigerians are actually benefiting. Now, we are equally looking at the 1 billion to some companies that the government promised. That is a way of galvanizing economic activities and improving our GDP and absorbing more Nigerians into employment. And I think we equally need to get feedback from any company that benefited to be sure that actually, yes, the people are benefiting. Then let us equally look at the area of CNG. This is not the first time the government is telling us that they will be rolling out vehicles that run on CNG, but from the presidential speech, broadcast, we understand that the kits are already in process. And according to the government, that the vehicle owners, commercial vehicle owners, will get it almost at a free cost to enable them drive down the cost of transportation. And from the analysis the government is giving, that is going to give us about, it's going to cut cost of transportation with about 60%. But the issue is, the argument is, why is it taking this long? This government came on board and almost immediately removed a subsidy and almost immediately promised to intervene by these CNG buses. But this is more than 7 months, 8 months after the promise, and nothing is being done in that regard. But let me say that Nigerians would be happy and accept the promise of government if they start seeing them working. Because the way it stands, Nigerians have not seen any of the promises coming to reality. That is why you saw Nigerians on the street. And I want to believe that Mr. President should understand that what motivated Nigerians to file out on the streets of the country in different cities is nothing more than hunger, hopelessness, insecurity. If the president can brace up and address these 3 major issues, I want to tell you that even the whole idea of Mr. President linking it to some politically motivated individuals, I don't think that is what actually transpired. I think this is a good place to let it go until come your way next time. I'm Mr. Matthew, and this is Satellite Media.